Welcome to the Middlesex Moments radio show. I'm Dr. Anna Wasesha, president of Middlesex Community College, and joining me today is Wendy Black-Nasta, who teaches jewelry making here on campus. But I think probably saying she teaches jewelry making here on campus is the tip of the iceberg. So underneath that, there's all this amazing stuff about being a professional jeweler. So I want to hear about that, about some of the things that you've done with our students and where they've gone and what it means to learn a craft and then be able to support yourself as an artist, which is so important. And then finally, artist for world peace. So let's get started on you.
Well,
and
thank you for having me.
Yeah. And how did you even begin to be a jeweler? And what is it about your craft that is you, that expresses you? I want to hear about it.
Started 34 years ago. I have a master's degree in metallurgy and fine art, so I'm a trained jewelry designer, and I worked out of Manhattan's Diamond District, so that's where I'm home based.
Really?
Yeah, so we move a lot. My husband and I were talking about that last night. We really do move a lot in New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, but I'm always based out of Manhattan, so that seems to be my anchor, wherever we live. Yeah, so I've been designing all those years.
So what was the very first piece of jewelry you ever designed?
The very first piece of jewelry I ever designed has a fantastic story. It was a ring. I'm a sculptor. I'm a trained sculptor, but so a lot of my jewelry is sculpted. It's carved in wax, and then I cast in either sterling or gold. And I was a street artist in San Francisco at the time, and I carved a ring with two naked ladies around the finger holding up a stone. And I really didn't want to sell it. It was my first piece, but I sold it to a woman. And all these years I've thought about that first piece, because of course it was never photographed or anything.
Oh, right. Too young to know that you should do that. Right?
Yeah, too young and too poor. I mean, I needed the money. She offered to buy it. I said, great. Well, years later, I was on the subway in Manhattan, and it was a crowded subway, and I put my hand up on that ring to hold on, and I saw a woman with her hand up on the ring wearing that very first ring of mine.
Wow.
That naked lady ring. Now, what are the odds?
Yeah.
So I was dressed in my work clothes. I was, working in the studio in Manhattan and dirty. It's a dirty profession, polishing and making jewelry. It's just dirty. Anyway, I said to the woman, excuse me, but I made your ring. She turned around, took a look at me, and just blew me off. And I said, no, really, I made your ring. I said, it says Wendy inside. She said, oh my goodness, it does say Wendy inside. She said, well, that's impossible. I bought it in San Francisco. I said that you bought it from me. I was a street artist in San Francisco. So I did get to see that very first ring again.
Wow.
Yeah, that was my
That is
first
an
piece.
amazing story. My husband's father was a jeweler, and he made rings, and we have one that my daughter has now that are two lovebirds that come up around a diamond. Because he made a ring sizer, so he was in the jewelry business, and he used to go to the Diamond District all the time. I think it's a yellow diamond. It's quite unusual.
I'm doing a lot with blue diamonds from Australia.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, and where are you marketing these? Where would one find a Black-Nasta piece of jewelry?
The consistent thing I do is every year, twice a year, May and November, I have shows, one-woman shows for all art collectors. I do it twice a year, and I've done it for 34 years consistently. So when my studio was in New York City, I would open the studio. Now I rent a suite at the Marriott, and I send out invitations.
Here in Middletown?
No, it's either in Manhattan, or I also use the one in Saddlebrook, New Jersey.
Okay, all right.
But you could always look me up on my website. The times and location of the show are listed. So that's the best place. If you could buy my work through stores too, but
it'd be much more fun to come to the studio show.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. All right. Well, we probably have to take a break here. When we get right back, we will be talking with Wendy Black-Nasta about what it's like to teach jewelry and jewelry making, and about some of the students here at Middlesex. Welcome back. With me today is Wendy Black-Nasta. We've been talking about jewelry making, and we're going to talk a little bit now about students in jewelry making. I mean, you told a story a little bit about your first piece, but you must also meet students here who are making their first pieces. So
Absolutely.
what's that creative process like? Because you have to help people think in 3 dimensions too.
Yes, and I get students that come into my class. I teach 2 classes here: lost wax cast, which is the carving and casting, and then metal weaving. And a lot of students come thinking they're getting easy credits in the art department, or that it's beating. These are very intensive classes, and my goal is to train my students. So, and my reputation on campus is I am a very hard teacher, and I like that reputation because the better my students, the better they like me. I mean, I'm here to train. So, and I was telling you before, I have a really amazing track record here of students who come through just taking this class on a whim and changing their whole lives. I mean, they've become amazing jewelry designers. So I just got done with two of my student shows, they're senior shows. So my goal, and the ones that are really amazingly talented. Once I have them in my class, I start developing a portfolio with them to get them into really great fine art schools. And my favorite on the East Coast, I really like RISD.
Yeah.
I like the program there.
That's one, having lived in the Midwest my whole life, that people talk about as like the beacon on the hill. So it has a reputation that spans the whole country.
Yeah, it's very good. And the other thing is I try to look for colleges that are going to hold my students' hands a little and get them out there in the world making a living. So Mecca, the Maine College of Art, is another East Coast school that I try to get students into.
And where's that located?
That's in Portland.
In Portland, okay.
Yeah. So I usually get about 2 or 3 students a semester that really focus in on jewelry. This semester is no exception. I just put in my grades this morning, and I have 3 now that are already committing to becoming jewelers. Wow. And these are 3 that just took this class on a whim.
Yeah.
They never did jewelry before. So that's exciting for me. I mean, I love it. I love getting students who have no idea how talented they are. They're my favorite because they're so they love the process, they fall in love with the process, but I watch them find a passion, and that's a gift to be able to be part of for me.
Yeah. It sort of knocks me back on my feet to think about it, because I've got to believe carving in wax is very small, very careful, very fine eye-hand agility, right?
Exactly.
And I think it is hard to get people to think in 3 dimensions, so there's that piece. And then there's the metallurgy. Tell me about metallurgy. Because obviously how the materials are going to react and what you can do with them is both a constraint and an opportunity, right?
Yes, and unfortunately right now gold is hitting historic highs. This class, we used to do silver and gold. And that's when gold was $300 an ounce, which was a lot for students. But I'd always get a few in a semester that would do a piece in gold. Many times it's their own wedding set, which is really delightful.
Yeah.
Some people can't see 3-dimensionally, so for certain students you learn their limitations or you learn their strengths. There's 2 ways of carving. You could use a very hard wax, which is wonderful for geometric designs and slick lines, and then there's soft wax, which is my specialty, which is it's really dental tools, and you work the soft wax warm using an alcohol lamp. It's much more sculptural, and it takes more training. I mean, you really do have to be able to carve in order to control soft wax. So I could tell what direction to take a student in. Someone who really loves form, for instance, but not too focused on surface texture, I would have work in a hard wax. And other people with a sculpture background or even clay background, they do much better in a soft. You learn what I could usually tell. I ask students to sketch, and I look at their sketchbook and I talk to them, and I'll know what techniques are really perfect for them. So it takes, I love teaching, and I take it seriously. I mean, so I work students. I mean, in the beginning there's resistance because somebody may just want to work in hard wax, but they have so much talent that I don't want them to limit themselves. But once they work through the resistance and understand the technique, then they get to fly with it.
I've never seen anything like this, so I'm trying to imagine. Do you do a pour then? I mean, how do you take your silver and your gold and work with wax?
You do your original carving in wax.
Yes.
And then you make a mold of your original carving. It's in a steel tube called a flask. It has a rubber base that's airtight, and you pour a mixture that's very much like plaster, like sheetrock. It's we call it investment. It's a very fine plaster. You mix it up and you pour it over your wax pattern. So now inside that steel ring is your mold. The plaster hardens. So the next week we peel off the rubber base and we put that flask, which is now our original mold, into a burnout furnace, which is an oven, and we burn out the original carving at 1200 degrees Fahrenheit.
Wow, okay.
So that's a 2.5 hour process, the lost wax cast burnout. And then we have a centrifuge in this studio where we spin molten metal into the mold. It's fascinating. Every single thing you have in wax, you now have in silver. Once you dunk your mold, you lose your original carving. Of course, it's gone. And now it's transferred into metal. However, if anything went wrong in the process, you've lost it. You've lost your original carving. So it's a very meticulous process. You have to do every variable correctly to get the end result.
Right. So what sorts of things do students do in their, let's just say I think, oh, this is so great, I would like to try it. But what would my first 3 or 4 weeks in the semester be like?
The first 3 or 4 weeks, the way I set up my classes, the first 45 minutes to an hour is a demo. And it's a 4-hour class, 4 hour. It's a great long class.
Yeah, right.
And then you'll learn how to carve. And there's always students who really do a lot of work and that shine. So they're the first ones to actually do the full process. So if you're one of the great students that's really motivated, you would, within 4 weeks, you would be able to carve, make your mold, and cast your original piece. That would take approximately the first month.
Yeah.
And then I have a lot of requirements because I want you to learn how to carve flat, and then I want you to do 3-dimension as well. So that, because some of my students now are working in casting houses. They're either doing wax mock-ups or spruing. It's just the way that you put your wax patterns on a tree so that you could cast multiples of pieces in one shot.
Yeah.
And then my most talented get hired. They're the ones that make the most money. They're the designers who carve the originals in wax. And I don't have that many who have really landed in that little arena, but the ones who have are making the most money out there. I think they're making, you can make about $40 to $60 an hour as a good wax carver.
Yeah.
So that's not bad.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
So what are there trends that affect what people make in jewelry? Obviously the cost of the metals is huge. Is silver the only alternative to gold, or are there other metals that people use?
We could use a bronze, a yellow bronze or a white bronze, so that if I've had a few students, I'm thinking of one in particular, Simon O'Reilly. He was up here. He also does filmmaking, and he did little animated figures in bronze. They were about 1 foot high. So it's a little too high for us to cast here. Our limitation is we could spin 4 ounces of metal because we're in a classroom setting, and it's dangerous. I mean, it has the potential, when you have 4 ounces of metal at 1400 degrees, you have to be very careful with these sculptures. They could take pounds of bronze. So for those, I have a friend that'll pour those for us, for my students. I've had some students make chess sets, all the pieces for a chess set. In my metal weaving class, I had one girl here who actually went on to FIT. She was my first semester at the college, and she was one of my best students. She's a dress designer, and then she did all of our techniques of metal weaving to do beautiful beaded straps for her gowns. So she incorporates metal with fabric. And she's doing very, very well as a fashion designer right now.
So metal weaving.
Metal weaving.
Wow.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And you'll have to stop by and see
I do
our
have
class.
to stop by. Yeah.
It's great. My kids are excellent. I teach metal weaving like Byzantine and Etruscan chain making, which is ancient. It's centuries old. I start out with things like the same structure of a suit of armor, which is traditional chainmail, and then I start teaching other ways, like through the Byzantine era into the Victorian era. Depending on what country you're focusing in on, we have all different chain weaving techniques. So I kind of take an international approach and teach techniques from around the world.
So where does that metal come from, and in what form does it come in?
For that, I buy manufactured wire. So we'll buy, let's say each student will buy an ounce of sterling silver wire in different gauges, and then from the wire we make our own links, and then I teach them different link forming.
And that's including soldering then?
The soldering, if you do it perfectly, which my students end up doing, even though they're shocked that they do, if you make the perfect links using a jeweler's saw, you don't have to solder, but the soldering will come in when you make the clasp, either a toggle, a hook and eye, whatever clasp they make has to be soldered. So that class is all manufactured metal. The lost wax cast is all casting grain which is just how it comes out of the ground.
That's amazing. I mean, this is a material I know nothing about. Well, of all the things you saw the students create this fall, what was like the one that stands out in your memory as kind of the most unique or interesting? Or
I think this class was interesting in that we did much more fabrication than we ever have. I have a fantastic TA this semester that I love. She was my student here, and the class is so large that I take my best students and have them ask them to TA.
Mm-hmm.
And with Jennifer in the classroom, we were able to do a lot more fabricating. We purchased a rolling mill, so I taught the students how to transfer textures onto sheets of metal.
Yeah.
So there were a lot more, more fabricated pieces, such as rings. And one boy, he didn't want to make jewelry, so he did a tea candle holder.
Mm-hmm.
So he did more of a structural piece
yeah.
than, and that's fine. You have free reign in my class. You could do anything you want. One of my girls that did get into RISD, she spent the whole semester doing a pair of sterling silver moccasins for her portfolio. Wow. So we spent literally a whole semester on one pair of moccasins, but they were incredible.
Yeah.
So, it goes the whole gamut from people doing their own wedding bands, which usually, I'll get at least one wedding band a year, which is fun.
Yeah.
All the way to, I've had kids do sculpture like candlestick holders and things like that. So, yeah, and you're free to do anything you want, as long as you fit those requirements.
Yeah. I would love to be in your classes as well, but we have to take a break again. Okay. And when we come back, let's talk about Artists for World Peace.
Great.
This is Anna Wasesha at Middlesex Community College, and we've been having this great conversation with Wendy Black-Nasta about jewelry making. And there's so many more things we could just unpack. We could spend a lot more time on this, the mysteries of jewelry making, because we all wear jewelry every day.
Absolutely.
But where does it come from and how does it get put together? It's always a mystery. But there's this other side of you, which is the Artists for World Peace. So I want to make sure we talk about that. So why don't you first just tell us about it, and then let's explore, all the things that go into setting up a nonprofit.
My foundation started with a piece of jewelry, which makes sense.
Yes.
When the European currency was taken out of circulation and being replaced by the euro, I got a phone call from a reporter at the Hartford Courant, Bill Daly. He said he's calling 4 Connecticut artists to ask how we'd like to use all this currency that's going to be extinct.
I was wondering about what happened to all of that.
Yeah.
And the coins especially.
Exactly. So I thought, well, one of my students was belly dancing for the first time at the Buttonwood. That was her 50th birthday present to herself to start belly dancing. So I had my whole class go in solidarity. We sat there to watch, and of course, the thing I loved the most were the belts that all the dancers were wearing. So when Bill called, it was within a week, and I said to him, why don't I do this? I'll take all the coins from around the world, all the European coins, and I'll make an international peace belt. So my thought at the time was that I could have dancers around the world wear this peace belt as it travels. I design internationally, so I have a lot of clients that are international. So I called and I sent out emails and I asked everybody to send me a coin from their country. And it took 2 years to get almost 100, I started with 120 coins. And if I couldn't get a coin, I would use a gemstone that's mined in the country. Like at the time, I couldn't get Afghanistan, I used aquamarine. I couldn't get Jordan. There were a few coins that were difficult for me. So 2 of my students, from Katie Rosenblatt from Middlesex, and 6 others, 2 were interning for the summer in my studio. So the summer of 2003, we finished the International Peace Belt. And because I had already told so many people about it, and the Hartford Courant had done a newspaper article, people started calling me. They wanted to wear this peace belt. So we quick put up a website, and I called it Artists for World Peace, and set up a 501c3, and the peace belt left for India to be blessed by Amachi. And it was the World Golden Jubilee, where 191 countries were represented in India for world peace. So I just wanted Amachi to bless the peace belt. Instead, it was at the head of this peace procession of 150,000 people.
Wow.
And that's when I knew we have something really amazing here. So we started getting hits. In 1 week, we got 1,000 hits from people around the world who wanted to wear the peace belt. So it's been traveling ever since. And I got the thought, with all the energy that started when we get to a country, I'd like to leave something concrete behind when we leave that country. So what we do is we raise money through the arts, and we do amazing work around the world. We in Cambodia, we built a safe house for battered women. In Ecuador, we helped build a school in the rainforest. The past 2 years, we've been focused on Tanzania, where I was last year with the Peace Belt. I've hooked up with a woman in Tanzania who built an orphanage, and my foundation has joined forces with her, and we now sponsor every child that lives in the orphanage, the education and the living expenses. And we are helping build a community health center there, which has taken us all year. We just had a great event on Broadway to raise funds. We had 16 Broadway stars come and do an amazing event for us at the Helen Mills Theater in Manhattan. That was in November. And
Wow.
we hook up with these artists as we go, and now we're quite large. We have about, this year I think we had over 400 volunteers, and it's an amazing foundation. It's artistsforworldpeace.org is the website. And we do a lot in America, of course. Before we leave for any other country, we make sure like this week, we're bringing food to the food banks, to local food banks, and we help at battered women's shelters locally as well.
So have you found, obviously this is a catalyst for bringing artists together here,
Yes.
in Connecticut or in the United States or New England.
Absolutely, and that's a big part of the vision for me, was to form communities of artists, because for me, in my opinion, some of the most generous people in the world are in the arts. So, and
I know.
it's amazing. I'll put out a call. For instance, this Broadway event. Here's 16 Broadway stars. They're all very accomplished in their field, and they came and performed, and of course did it for free. And we were able to raise the funds to put in solar electricity in the community health center. So our center, when it opens, we're servicing 2,500 villagers in a little tiny village called Kabosho, which we're working in. It's in the northeast corner of Tanzania. And so we have a very exact goal. Like, we raised the roof was one goal, where we had brought all Connecticut artists together to just help us raise funds to raise the roof. So we pick projects, and then we put out a call, and artists come and help us, not only here, but as we travel, we also form community around the world.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
I want to ask you to tell the listeners how they might help in any way. Go to your website. I bought some fabric that you brought from Tanzania, so you must be having
right.
some things that people could buy if they wanted to.
Absolutely. This year we're putting on a store on our website, and we're going through eBay, through Mission Fish, so they're not going to be charging us because we're a 501c3.
Good.
That's right. I brought fabric back, and we had 25 local artists come and make beautiful linens out of the fabric. And then we also are just selling the raw fabric. But if you go to our Facebook page, as we do events and we're looking for volunteers, we'll always post it on Facebook, and it's Artists for World Peace. So if you do want to get involved, just contact us either through the website or through our Facebook page.
Good.
We're always looking for help, always.
Good.
And no one's turned away.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, I'm afraid that we've run out of time.
Okay, great.
That's not fair, is it? But it happens.
It went so fast.
It did. So I really want to thank you for coming over
Thanks
to
for
talk
inviting me.
with me about these. And I want to thank you for being such a great instructor and
Thank
leading
you.
these students on to careers where they can actually make a living as an artist,
Yeah, it's exciting.
which can happen.
Oh, it
Yeah.
can, that's what I tell them. It can happen.
Right.
It's a great way to make a living. Just follow your passion.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Absolutely.
thank you so much.
Thank you. And welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome to our campus.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, it is. It's fabulous. I love it. And
Good.
so I'll be looking to see more about Artists for World Peace, and I want to see your studios here on campus and meet some of your students, too.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Great.
This has been the Middlesex Moments radio show, and today I've been visiting with Wendy Black-Nasta, who teaches jewelry making here on our campus and is also very engaged with a nonprofit organization called Artists for World Peace. So I hope you will take a look at her Facebook account and her website, and if you still have internet energy left over, look at our website at mxcc.comnet, that's COMMNET.edu. I'm Anna Wasesha, President of Middlesex Community College, wishing you a very good day.